मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविराविर्मयेधि वेदस्य मआणीस्थ श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासीः अनेनाधीतेनाहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारमवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ May my speech be firmly established in my mind. May the mind too be firmly established in my speech. May there be perfect correspondence in our thoughts, words, and actions. May the truths of the scriptures be revealed unto me. May what I learn from them never forsake me. Let me live my life day and night according to their teachings. I shall speak what is appropriate. I shall speak the truth. May that protect me. May that protect the teacher. Om, peace, peace, peace. Let us feel our own innermost true self as a spark of light. And let us feel its effulgence spreading all over our personality. I see. I am light. The body with all its components like bones, blood, skin, nerves, all organs are merged in this inner effulgence. They are all light. with that, everything around also merges in the light. The light of the self. I am actually, truly, all pervading, eternal, infinite, ocean of effulgence. There is no I or mine. No separateness, no distinction at all. This is bliss. This is peace. Now, this infinite effulgence is condensing in the human form of Sri Ramakrishna. The embodiment of Sat Chid Ananda, the existence itself, consciousness itself, bliss itself. Om, peace, peace, peace. So, dear friends, let us begin this discussion on Sri Ramakrishna and his divine play with our usual chant. तव स्वकथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहम् श्रवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ते भूरिदा जनाः. We were discussing how this very special relationship between Sri Ramakrishna and Mathur Babu was. Sri Ramakrishna was the teacher, guide, protector in various ways of Mathur Babu, a very wealthy, powerful and a Western style educated landlord, and Sri Ramakrishna, a mere wage earning priest in that Kali temple, and yet he became an ardent devotee, and as the wish of the Divine Mother was, he became the prime provider for Sri Ramakrishna's these material needs. So that is how their very special relationship was very difficult to understand and almost impossible to describe. In that we were seeing that how, and this was on we began from page 510, and now we are on page 512 of this book, where it has been discussed that the external manifestation of spiritual awareness is samadhi of various types. It is but just trying to get samadhi without building the inner strength of character is not enough. In fact, that samadhi becomes unbearable. One gets tremendously tortured by it, since one is not capable of withstanding that awareness, that special, very powerful awareness. And so, Sri Ramakrishna had tried to dissuade Mathur from asking for it, from pestering for it. But when he could not, then he had, with the blessings of Sri Ramakrishna, the experience of a bhava samadhi, a divine mood overtook him. And then he, after a couple of days or so, he sent for Sri Ramakrishna that, look what has happened to me. It is, I am in a terrible condition. All my worldly businesses, they are now going to ruin. I cannot pay attention to any work. And so please take it back. I am sorry. And Sri Ramakrishna laughed and said, look, it is, I had told you that is not for you, but you were pestering. Okay. So it is something like that. That if we are not prepared to handle something, it is not going to help us, rather hurt us. There may be some people who can eat, say, a lot of food, say 2 pounds of cake. But then, if a ordinary person who is not capable of that eats it, then will have lot of problems. So similarly, there has to be the inner capability of strength of character and dispassion for the worldly things. Then it can really be held on to. So last time we were discussing the example of how a young man was brought to Sri Ramakrishna with signs of samadhi. He was in some divine mood, and people, his relatives, thought that his brain is now seems to be deranged. And so they were immensely worried and brought him to Sri Ramakrishna. And Sri Ramakrishna, as it has been described here, the author himself has many times seen such examples right happening in front of his eyes, and heard many of them from others, that Sri Ramakrishna has this unique capability of discerning what is the particular mood, how it is caused, and also whether the person is able to handle it or not, what is the general characteristic state of a person. Swami Vivekananda mentions that at a certain point that just they because of certain overwhelming emotions or the force of a situation, one may hold on to some courage, but then that is not really the character of that person. On the spur of that moment, he says, Swami Vivekananda says, that when thousands of people are watching you, you may show lot of courage, very unusual to you. But when it comes to your otherwise day-to-day life, it is you are not really courageous, you might be actually a coward. So therefore, on certain spur of the moment, some such feelings of devotion may come and overtake one's usual normal personality. And Sri Ramakrishna had that skill to diagnose where that person in his or her normal life stands. And that is the test of character actually. As Swami Vivekananda mentions, that the test of character is known from how a person behaves in the natural normal activities. When giving a speech on some spiritual matters from platform, one can show as if there is lot of spiritual awareness or devotion in that person. That person may be able to make others feel, oh, what a that big storehouse of spirituality there. He may shed tears, make others also shed tears by chanting of the holy name. But then, off the stage, when that person is just eating, talking to other people, and is doing some very normal common activities like walking, and interacting with people. How is that person's behavior? That provides the actual test of character, not as such singular events. So, Sri Ramakrishna could look into that and would diagnose what is happening. So, when this young man was brought to Sri Ramakrishna, let us read what Sri Ramakrishna has told about it. Um, it is on page 512, the third paragraph. When the master saw that young man, he remarked, I see a preliminary sign of Madhur Bhava. He could see that preliminary sign of Madhur Bhava. Preliminary means it is Madhur Bhava. There is a footnote about it that it is Radha of Vrindavan had so much intense love for Krishna that it would manifest in the body with 19 modifications classified in 8 groups known as Ashta modifications, that is, 8 types where in which these 19 modifications would be seen on her person, such as laughing, weeping, tears, tremor, horripilation, means the goosebump. That because this word horripilation is not much used in America. Sweating, fainting, and so on. According to the Vaishnava scriptures, this state is called Madhura Bhava, and its culmination is Mahabhava. Madhur means very sweet, and Maha means great. Bhava means mood. So, it is the Madhur Bhava is one of those 5 modes in which one connects to God. It is described in the Bhakti scriptures that it is like Shanta, a calm. There is no upsurge of emotions seen outside. It is calmness, Shanta. Then there is the feeling that God is the master, I am the servant, called Dasya, servant attitude. Then there is the Vatsalya attitude, means the God is considered as one's child, like the mother in case of Rama and Krishna, that Kausalya and Yashoda, they had this Vatsalya, that caring attitude, that kind of love towards God. Then there is the Sakhya, friendship. That friendship, like Arjuna always thought Krishna as his friend. So the attitude of being a friend of God. And then there is this Madhura, means the love for a paramour. So, being in mad love, like manifested in the sexual relationships. So, that is called Madhura Bhava. So, it is a tremendous attraction that is felt in the illicit love. So, this is Radha is the example of that, and this Sri Ramakrishna diagnosed this state as these are the preliminary signs of Madhur Bhava. So, but this state will not last. He will not be able to hold it. It is extremely difficult to retain this state. As soon as he touches a woman with desire in his mind, this ecstasy will vanish. it will be utterly destroyed. The visiting devotees were relieved. They were not much into spiritual pursuit, so they were relieved to see that the young man's brain was not deranged, and they all left. After some time, we heard that the master's prediction had come true. The young man's fate betrayed him. He had the fortune to ascend to a higher plane by the momentary excitement of the Sankirtan. We had described that kind of dancing to the fast tempo of kirtan that makes the nerves kind of excited, and then one gets pushed into this kind of an unusual mood. So, and many take it for example as a real spiritual state. In fact, some years ago, I was told that, well, you give sermons and you meditate, it is all right. But actually, that does not change a person's life. I mean, you don't get the mood of devotion. You should have those sankirtans, kirtans, where people will be jumping and dancing to the fast, those rhythms with the drum beats and the all those symbols, and so that will be good if you so that people will get some ecstatic mood. I said, well, that is not the way I have learned, so sorry, I cannot exactly do what you are asking me to do. So, because this is the danger in that we think that kind of getting into that kind of mood is everything. And we forget that to hold on to that mood, we need to actually develop the inner character, make it full of the spirit of discrimination, discernment, and dispassion, and the love for God, our true self. So, the practices of proper meditation and the understanding of the scriptural import, they and practice of dispassion, they are going to make us stronger inside to hold on to the currents of these bhavas. Otherwise, this can be utterly destructive to one's life, spiritual and, of course, material. It is like those, when in New Orleans, Louisiana, some years ago, there were those floods, torrential rains and storms, and what happened? Those levees, they just broke, and it was a devastating situation there. Many times it happens where the dam to hold on to a flooded roaring river is too weak to hold on to that, and then it causes very big destruction all around. So, if our personality, if our nerves are not really strong enough to carry these currents, then that can spell really disaster to a person, and therefore it is not advisable. Those who know, they understand how gradually one should develop these things in life. Otherwise, a momentary just this your mood gets jacked up, as it were, and then one collapses. It is like that. So, therefore, Swami Vivekananda always advocated uh, devotion tempered with knowledge, and he taught people to practice this. So, this is, we see it in later, after a few years, many devotees who gathered around Sri Ramakrishna, they thought the moods of Sri Ramakrishna, like because he would get into this kind of bhava samadhi, and he could not walk properly, he could not speak properly, and he, as if he is seeing not these objects. Some of the devotees started practicing these external things, and to follow Sri Ramakrishna. That is, Swami Vivekananda warned the devotees, especially the younger devotees who used to serve Sri Ramakrishna then, that that is not being Sri Ramakrishna. It is just as if walking with the hesitant steps, as if one may fall. They started practicing that because these external signs, they appear that we can do that. We may not have that kind of tremendous love for God, but maybe we can practice these external signs, as if while walking our steps become unsteady. Well, that can happen even without any spiritual progress, friends. So, having the spiritual progress is one thing, and behaving like a drunkard is another thing. So, it is, so the practice of devotion along with this knowledge is important. What Swami Vivekananda advised to the common rung of devotees. Now we move to another topic here. As Mathur had nothing to hide from the father, so the father had nothing to hide from Mathur. As a boy behaves with the mother, as a friend with his friend, similarly the master, except when he was in samadhi, would talk frankly and freely to Mathur, cordially asking his opinion, accept his advice, and seek his loving care. We have already shared with the reader the scriptural statement that when a person reaches the highest plane of supreme knowledge in the eyes of ordinary people, he or she appears to be a lunatic or a ghoul or a child. So all these different modes Shankaracharya has described them in Vivek Chudamani 542, the verse number 542, that sometimes he appears to be a fool, sometimes a sage, sometimes possessed of regal splendor. Sometimes he wanders and sometimes behaves like a motionless python that waits for its food to come to it. All different things happen to that very extremely, you see, at the end of the spectrums, as it is, that sometimes people will heap lot of honor on this person, sometimes he will be just insulted very badly, and still that person will have his mood will not change at all. He is not hankering for anything. So such a person is described, and so Sri Ramakrishna, it is it is it is said here that this live thus lives uh, thus lives an illumined soul always absorbed in supreme bliss. When this is true in the case of an ordinary liberated person, it is no wonder that the great avatars like uh, ch- behave like children and remain unperturbed under all circumstances. So it is not at all surprising that the master behaved with Mathur in that manner. Again, it was no small fortune for Mathur to live in such close contact with the master for such a long time. What a wonderful relationship the master had with Mathur. During the time of his sadhana and afterwards, if the master needed anything, he would ask Mathur for it. If he had any vision or spiritual experience during samadhi or at other times, he would ask Mathur, "Can you tell me why such a thing happened? Tell me what you think of that." And so on. The master kept an eye on Mathur's welfare to ensure that he would attain virtue by using his money properly, meaning that the money meant for the service of each deity was spent for that purpose and that it was used to help support the guests, beggars, and holy people who visited the temple. We heard many stories in this respect. We often witnessed such conduct of the master when we visited him long after Rani Rasmani and Mathur had passed away. It will not be out of place here to give one example. Mm. So, as a ordinary person, Sri Ramakrishna would consult Mathur, because he, in the regular mode, he would consider himself to be a very ignorant person having no learning, no expertise, most ordinary and humble person, humblest of the humble. So it is. So he would consult Mathur, ask him various ordinary questions, and Mathur Babu also would, to Sri Ramakrishna's satisfaction, will used to reply. So many such instances have been there that Mathur uh, consoling Sri Ramakrishna. Imagine, Sri Ramakrishna by some ordinary thing will feel very perplexed. Hey, what is this? And Mathur would tell, oh, he would ask Mathur, and Mathur would tell, oh, don't worry, that is just. So Sri Ramakrishna would feel consoled by that. So it is. But here an example is given that we are going to read is about certain arrangements that Rani Rasmani Mathur Babu had made with the probably the consultation with Sri Ramakrishna, that the deities, when they are worshipped, they are offered the food called Naivedya. The food offered is to the deities during the worship, and after deities the worship is over, the deities take the subtle part of that. And then, in fact, Sri Ramakrishna in a vision saw that a light comes out from the deity's eyes, and then goes to all the different food items offered there. It's a very nice vision that Sri Ramakrishna had. That it is, we read in scriptures that the deities accept the food offered to them by vision, called drishti bhoga. It is, they look at it and absorb it. So, but Sri Ramakrishna's vision makes it so palpably clear that he saw the light emanating from that deity's eyes and touches all different parts of the food and takes the subtle extract from all of them, and thus the deities actually take what is offered. Many think that, oh, the deities, we just do it as a matter of daily ritual, but do they actually take? Yes, they actually take it. It is so they take that subtle part, and then the remaining is distributed amongst the devotees as prasad, the sacred food sanctified by the touch of God. So this is as it were leftover uh, given by God. It is called prasad with the idea that it is blessed food, blessed with the divine touch, and the divine blessings are along mixed in that food. So therefore it is taken as prasad. So prasad means that becoming having a very noble benevolent feeling is and feeling of joy, that is called prasad. So that it is so this prasad is to be distributed amongst the devotees. Now this used to be as quite a quantity every day, and the arrangement was a big part of it. A plate would come to Sri Ramakrishna, where the many devotees and holy people would partake of that, either the cooked food or the sweets, the fruits, and all such things. So that would come to Sri Ramakrishna's room. So from Mathur's time onwards, it was arranged that every day after the food was offered to Mother Kali and Radha Govinda, a big plateful of cooked food and one of the sweets and fruits should be sent to Master's room. The Master and those who were with him would partake of that prasad. In addition, on festival occasions when there were special food offerings to Kali and Radha Govinda, part of that prasad was also sent to the Master. It was during the rainy season and the day for the worship of Mother Falharini Kali. The temple celebrated this festival on a small scale with a special worship to Mother Kali and offerings of sweets and fruits. This is one of the major these nights of Kali Puja. Actually, every new moon day and night, especially new moon night, is the special day of worship, special Kali Puja time. But there are some very important amongst them, and one of them is this Falaharini Kali Puja. So it was done, and the devotees of Sri Ramakrishna have a special uh, that connection with this Falaharini Kali Puja, because Sri Ramakrishna performed Holy Mother's worship as Shodashi on the night of this Falaharini Kali Puja. So at on this Falaharini Kali Puja day, the worship was done, and then uh, yogins, Swami, later Swami Yogananda, and some other devotees were with the Master on that day. On each festival day, a particular divine mode would manifest in the Master. On that day uh, of a Vaishnava festival, on the day of a Vaishnava festival, the mood of Vishnu would be manifest in him. And on the Shakta festival day, the mood of Shakti would manifest. During Durga Puja, especially at the time of Sandhi Puja or Kali Puja, the master would become absorbed and motionless in the thought of the Divine Mother. So many people have actually observed this, that during those special days, the corresponding mood would come to Sri Ramakrishna. And sometimes it has happened that even though Sri Ramakrishna didn't know that it was that day, that mood suddenly would come to him, and then it would be later discovered that it was this particular day. So, mm, his hands would even assume the gestures of Kali, offering a boon with one hand and bestowing fearlessness with other. Similarly, on the festive occasion of Janmashtami, Krishna's birthday, he was absorbed in the mood of Radha and Krishna, and the eight sattvic modifications which had been earlier mentioned uh, would appear in his body. That ecstasy would come upon him in such a natural way that it seemed he made no effort at all to attain it. Sometimes we have seen on a particular festival occasion that master would be focused on discussing various topics and apparently had forgotten the special manifestation of that particular deity on that day. But suddenly his mind would be withdrawn from those topics and become absorbed in the mood of that one deity, as if someone had forced him to focus on that deity. We witnessed many such instances while the master was staying in Shyampukur. One time the master was talking to Dr. Mahendralal Sarkar and many others in his room when all of a sudden he went to ecstasy. It was the time for Sandhi Puja, a special worship of the goddess Durga. As we gazed on his luminous face, beaming with a smile, who could then think that he had any disease, or even that he was the same pale faced ill person seen just moments before? This is important. We had seen such things in the life of Sri Ramakrishna very often. It is described in his biography in other places as well. In Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna also, M describes many such events. This one is of special importance because Sri Ramakrishna was brought to this Shampukur house for treatment of his aggravating cancer. He was so pale, sick, was not able to move much, had lost weight, and was hardly able to swallow anything. So, in that condition, also, when this mood uh, uh, came to him, that Sandhi Puja mood, everything as it were altered completely. So on the day of the Falharini Kali Puja, the master experienced ecstasy intermittently. Like a 5-year-old boy, the master was singing the mother's name and dancing with joy. Overwhelmed people gazed at his wonderful face. They experienced various spiritual moods by virtue of the holy company of this God man. The night was almost over when the mother's worship was finished and no one had much rest. Morning arrived. Those who have attended such puja of Divine Mother Kali, they know it goes on all the night. Begins somewhere, sometimes after the dusk nightfall, and then when all this thing is over, you see the sun coming out. So especially during this Falharani Kali Puja, the night is short, the day is long, so the whole night is just spent in Kali Puja. The worship of Mother Kali is a very beautiful worship. The mantras are so full of meaning, significance, that one really is sucked into that mood while doing that worship. So, the night is over, worship is over, everybody is now very tired. The whole night one was attending the worship, was singing, dancing, and so forth. All those things went on, and now uh, the time for the taking the prasad. At 8 or 9 a.m., the master realized that the allotted portion of the special food offering had not arrived. He asked his nephew Ramlal, the priest of the Kali temple, why he had not received the prasad. Ramlal did not have an answer, but he reported that all the prasad has been sent as usual to the temple manager. It is being distributed from his office according to each person's allotted share. I don't know why your share has not yet been sent. At this, the master became impatient and anxious. See, Sri Ramakrishna becoming impatient and anxious, just imagine. Mm. He asked several persons, why has prasad not yet come from the office? And went on talking about it. After he had waited for a while and the prasad had still not arrived, he put on his slippers and went to the manager. The master asked the manager, hello, why has the allotted prasad for that room, pointing to his room, not been sent? Is it a mistake? This is a long standing arrangement. It would be wrong to stop it now, even by mistake. Embarrassed, the manager said, has prasad not yet been sent to you? That is a bad mistake. I will send it immediately. So, this is much after Mathur Babu had passed away. So, that matter should have been just settled right there. But what happened was this that yogin was there and was then a boy. He was a little proud because he had been born into noble and aristocratic Savarna Chaudhary family. He considered the manager, other officials, and the priest of the temple to be worthless. But the master's unselfish love and unconditional grace forced Yogin to completely surrender at his holy feet. Because his home was very near Rasmani's temple garden, he had the great privilege of being able to visit the master every day. The master's strong attraction pulled him to the temple regularly. Although he respected the master, he had always kept his distance from the temple staff. Therefore, when he saw that the master was anxious because he had not received his share of the prasad, he said, "Sir, it matters little if it does not come. This is a negligible thing. Moreover, the food does not suit your stomach and you do not eat it either. Let them not send it." That was how he said, "Why you are so concerned about this minor matter?" Uh, and then, uh, when master ignored him and after a while went to the manager to inquire of this, Yogin pondered, "How strange! Why is he so anxious today for some ordinary fruit sweets? I have never known him to be perturbed in any matter. Then why is he in such a mood?" Finding no reason after a long deliberation, he concluded, "Now I understand." We draw based on what we understand, what our previous knowledge and prejudices are. Many times the prejudices pass for knowledge. So it is with that prejudice he started placing this action of Sri Ramakrishna as, oh, after all, he belongs to that priest caste. His forefathers all had been priests, so that impression is there. So he is, and what they always hanker after this prasad, the rice and bananas that are distributed. So that must have remained, and so that is prompting him to go and get it in any case. So, mm, and then he concluded like that. When we do not find answer to some question in mind, some doubt in our mind, then we keep on, thinking what might be the reason. And unless we either find a conclusion or we keep push that thought aside, we do not find peace. So Yogin therefore had to find some conclusion, and he found that that is because of his previous priest caste, and then that is the habit in his family. So that is how he is like that. So uh, after reaching, now what happened? After reaching this conclusion, Yogin waited in the master's room. Meanwhile, the master returned and said to him, now master could see, as we had seen in several other cases also, could see the mind of a person very clearly. Every thought was visible to him, as he himself mentioned, like the things kept in a glass case. The master can see everybody's mind. I am deliberately using present tense, not that he could. Even now, Sri Ramakrishna is around and he can see our minds even now so clearly. So it is. Uh, so Rani Rasmani, he said to him, "Look here." He saw what Yogin was thinking. "Look here, Rani Rasmani has bequeathed her large estate to the service of this temple so that the offering may be distributed among devotees and sadhus. The part of the offering that comes to this room is taken only by devotees who come here with yearning for God. So, the gift of Rani Rasmani is put to good use. But what use is made of the other portion that goes to the temple priest? They sell the offered rice in the market, and some even feed their mistresses with that prasad. I fight with the temple officials for the share that comes here so that Rasmani's objective may be at least partially fulfilled. He was so careful about the Mathur Babu and Rani Rasmani that what their intention was that should come to fruition, and then they would get the merit. If the food goes to proper persons, prasad goes to devotees, then they would get the merit of it. This is a concept that is not easy to understand, but that is how that it is. This is the yogin understood that. So, friends, there is now the further some examples about the relationship of Mathur and Master. Our time today is finished, so we shall try to discuss it in our next Tuesday class. Uh, so let us meditate on this, and let me again, you are all aware of it, that in this coronavirus situation, and we should learn to protect ourselves, protect others also, take every possible care, and let me repeat, let us be very careful without getting panicked. This morning, one of our Swamis in our Ramakrishna Vivekananda Center in New York, he had been there for now decades. His name Swami Anasaktananda, being called Martin Maharaj, he succumbed to complications arising from the heart problem and coupled with this coronavirus. So, this is may our prayers be with him on his onward journey. And now let us meditate on the all pervading eternal self in the form of Sri Ramakrishna for 30 seconds. And if you have any questions, please ask after that. Yes, please. Are there any questions? Yes, please.
Question from Chris Maharaj. When we read of great
Whose question is it?
Chris
Chris.
Chris Bartolotta. That's the full name. Maharaj, when we read of great saintly devotees collapsing or shedding tears during kirtan, is this also just a trick of the mind?
See, if when you see great saints, it is not a trick. For the great saints, it is a very spontaneous expression of their devotion, and they can hold to it because they have that inner strength of character. It is the inner strength of character. It is, for example, somebody may, with some great mental force, somehow would lift, say, 300 pounds, and then that will break that fellow's back, you see. But there are some who have trained their bodies their muscles are made like that. I have seen some just lifting as if it is nothing, a big that floor polishing machine had been brought here, and it was so heavy. Yeah, I could not even push it. And this man who was working, he just picked it as if somebody picks a glass of water. It is like that, he just picked it because those muscles are trained. So similarly, these wonderful saints, they have built their lives. The strength of renunciation, dedication is there, and therefore they, for them, it is a spontaneous expression of the inner devotion, and they can actually hold that. This is otherwise the external appearance. It is one of the Hafiz poem. He says, well, people now think that it is just this love of God, but how much one has to yearn for it and practice the disciplines to get it. So it is, this is the preparation, that is the spontaneous expression. So without preparation, then it is just the external effervescence that Sri Ramakrishna spoke about, we discussed last time. Yeah, exactly.
There's one more question from Paduka. Can you speak of kriyas which people experience when chanting the Lord's name?
Pardon?
Can you speak of kriyas which people experience when chanting the Lord's name?
Kriyas. I don't know what the word means, that kriyas. Well, he can type what he means by the word kriya. Till then, I think Prithvish has some question. Let him ask his question, and let us see what is meant by this word kriya. That is, you are right in the respect that Madhur Bhava. Sometimes this Madhur Bhava is thought of, but actually, what is happening there is the most natural carnal attraction that plays, and that gets labeled as Madhur Bhava in most cases. As you mentioned, Madhur Bhava is not very much found. Very rare people are they qualified to practice this sadhana of Madhur Bhava. Therefore, it is not advised by Sri Ramakrishna. In fact, there are many pitfalls in trying to imitate that Madhur Bhava. It is, one has to remember that the relation has to be with God. What happens is, one's interpersonal relation gets sometimes magnified. It is very rare. See, the mind keeps on cheating us that some action that is not a good action, it is an expression of carnal attraction. But if I am not able to uh, eliminate it, I don't really want to eliminate it. I want to, because of my passions, I hold on to it, and yet I do not want to get censured by myself or others. So then I label it as Madhura Bhava. That is a, and although Madhur Bhava is rare, examples of such pseudo things are plenty. It is. There are some really saintly people. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Ramakrishna are many are great examples. But apart from them, also we have some examples of saintly people with that Madhura Bhava. But it is, comparatively speaking, very rare, and the teachers hardly ever teach the disciples, the students, this Madhur Bhava, because there are not qualified students to practice that. It is not natural, also, as you mentioned. It is, the carnal attraction is natural, but that kind of attraction for God is not at all natural. And so, therefore, it is safer for, say, 99.999% people not to go on that kind of mode. So your question is very right, correct here, yeah. Sri Ramakrishna, what you said, Dasya Bhava, is natural. Yes, Dasya Bhava is very natural, because we look upon God. A very natural idea that everybody has is the God is the master. God is the master. He governs everything. What capacity we have to do as dictated by God. So let us cultivate that mood. We say also, therefore, for that God, that you are the master, I am the servant. God does everything. I am just the instrument. Even that attitude, is the Dasya Bhava, the servant. And today it is, I just was reminded that today is the birthday of the great example of this attitude of Dasya, Hanuman. Today is Hanuman Jayanti. So it is, the Hanuman is the exemplification of this Dasya Bhava. So, in fact, when Sri Ramakrishna practiced Dasya Bhava, he assumed the attitude of this Hanuman, the monkey god. So, he, as it were, used to, jump like a monkey on all four, would like to climb the trees, and not only that, his backbone had extended as if it is like a tail. So, it is this attitude of servant and God the master is most natural for people. Yeah.
So the person clarified that kriyas means uncontrolled body movements, screaming, gyrating, etc.
Oh,
So
oh.
what people experience when chanting the Lord's name? Can you
Oh,
speak
well,
about that?
yeah, that should be actually controlled. Those things, because at least they should not be deliberately done at all. One should try to control those things, because that may make our nerves get too excited, and then practice of controlling one's desires of enjoyment becomes very, very difficult. So, therefore, it is one should, of course, participate in chanting the name of God in kirtans and such things, but one must be very careful that the external actions like shaking the body, or getting some jitters and screaming, and that should be uh, deliberately avoided. Certainly, it should not be deliberately practiced, but one should deliberately try to control it, because if this goes out of control, the nerves get further weakened. Already, how much our nerves are strong, one should see to resist the onslaught of desires. And so, if they are made weaker further by such things, the hope is very little. Many, unfortunately, do not like to hear these things, that it is so therefore it is advised that do not just deliberately do these things. If it comes, first try to control it, and then let this be coupled with the practice of renunciation, practice of what is called viveka, discernment and renunciation. Then that will build the personality to hold on to the force of these emotions. Yeah. So, okay, let us conclude with our closing prayers. May the Divine, who is Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Great Spirit of the Native Americans, Ahur Mazda of the Zoroastrians, and Brahman of the Hindus lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the all loving being manifest himself unto us and grant us abiding understanding and all consuming divine love. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.